Awesome. This has been an incredible conference. I think I could fly home without the plane. I'm really honored to be speaking to you guys. How many of you guys saw me on the reports and then you see me now? You look better on the report. I have some stuff to share with you guys. I hope it provides you with some value, and I want to start off with a story. And that story starts off with a gentleman that's going to help us guide our talk today. So there are three main points I'm going to get into towards the back half of my message. But to start things off, I want to kind of weave this into a story so that it makes sense. How many of you guys learn better through story? I do too, so bear with me through this. So there's a gentleman, 26 years old, and here's the setting. This gentleman's sitting in a very uncomfortable place, not physically, but emotionally. He's in an interview looking to change complete directions in his life because he hit a point of pain and frustration that he wasn't where he wanted to be. He was $500,000 in debt, and he had followed all the advice everyone had ever given him that he thought was good advice. Go to school, get good grades, get a secure job, and eventually found himself listening to advice all the way to the point of on the verge of bankruptcy and in a lot of debt. In fact, every month he had to spend $6,000 just to service the interest on this debt before groceries and gas and all that stuff. So here this gentleman is sitting in an interview because he learned in a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that he should focus on two things if you want to get financially free in your life: salesmanship and leadership. And this gentleman was very shy and quiet, introverted, had no self-confidence, and wasn't the kind of person that would look someone in the eye or introduce himself. And so what does he think he can do in a sales role? But he wanted a life different than one he was creating. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, if you want some things to change in your life, you have to change some things in your life. And he recognized that. So what did he do? He decided to start looking for sales jobs and found this crazy knife selling thing. He thought that there was trophies in there, so they were selling trophies at first. That was his initial impression. And I want to show you a picture of this 26-year-old man. There he is. That's me. There's my dog on the top right, my, at the time, girlfriend on the left. And on the bottom right there's a very tan version of that gentleman. And that's literally about the same day I finished that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Changed everything for me. It broke my paradigm that I needed to follow a certain rhythm in life and that I could actually do the things I wanted to do, that I could be the person that I was meant to become. And so I started working with Cutco and moved up to key staff eventually because I wanted to fast track myself into management because I had so much debt to get out of that I just figured, you know what? I want to learn leadership, I want to learn salesmanship, and I want to create a large income. It seemed to make the most sense to go to be a district manager. So here I am, my key staff promotion at summer conference 2. And David Ramirez is with me in that photo, pretty cool. He and I are still working together. And I opened my own office the very next year, ran a pretty successful district team. That was my key staff that I was able to create the very next year. I was so proud of that moment. If you want to know why I have a shaved head, ask me later. It's a hilarious story. We all have funny mistakes. So what ends up happening is I end up growing this great team. I do over $1 million in sales as a district manager. And then something profound happened, something that kind of brought my life to a grinding halt. That's not my wife's beer belly. We were expecting our first son, and that, of course, leads to this. And those of you who are parents understand that moment's transformational. I ended up having, for various circumstances, having to step away from Vector for a number of years, but realized that this organization is really about the right core values. And I always came back to different offices and spoke at team meetings. I always wanted to maintain my involvement because I believe what we stand for is something that's more than just sales and creating income. There's significance to what we do, and there's a lasting legacy, and I'm very proud and honored to do that. Here's us now. We've grown a bit. My oldest son, Giovanni, now has 2 siblings, and they're everything to me, my wife and my kids. That's why I do what I do. So what I want to share with you guys are a couple of things that helped me to take a quantum leap. You guys remember? Anyone remember that show? Okay, I know who's what age now. So what's it take to take a quantum leap? Well, like I said, there's 3 keys that I have learned or thought of throughout my journey this last year that in reflecting on what it took to accelerate my sales, these 3 things were what did it. And I'm going to tell you right now that these 3 things are kind of one thing, and so I'm going to try and separate them, but they're really completely intertwined. If you take any one of these 3 things out, it doesn't work. It's a formula. So I'm going to click through these kind of fast. I hope you take some good notes. If you want to ask me questions afterwards, feel free. But here's lesson number 1 is know your why. Understand your purpose behind your goals, behind your activities. And for me, my why is pretty straightforward. I was in so much debt that I needed to get out of it. Well, at the beginning of 2017, I had a vision. I had enough debt still left that if I kept going, I'd be about 5 more years before I'd be debt-free. But I thought, you know what? Someone said earlier this week that we get to write a blank check to ourselves at this company. That's kind of cool. And it's based on how much effort we put in and what results we're willing to go get. And so I decided, you know what? If I could write a blank check to myself for X number of dollars that would get rid of my debt, what would that look like? What dollar amount would that be? And it happened to be $225,000. So guess what my goal was for 2017? 225. Now, I'd only done 125 the year before. And I thought, man, that's a big jump. I don't know if I'm ever really, am I the person that could do that? I was met with a lot of doubt, and I still struggle with self-confidence stuff to this day. And so being able to face that challenge, that purpose, really required a lot more than just what was in myself. It required reaching out to other people. So here's the 3 points I'll tell you right now. So it's why, it's goals with an action plan to make those goals happen, and I'll click through the slides in a bit. And the third one is your association. And so what I did is I reached out to the best person I could think of, Brandon Brown. I said, Brandon, I would love to work with you. I'd love to be one of your mentees, and I would love for you to help me reach my goals this year. And naturally he said, well, what are those? Told him the number. He said, great, so you're looking to grow by $100,000. Let me ask you a question. On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being 100% bought in, fully committed no matter what, and 1, where do you find on your commitment level to reaching that goal 225 for the year? And I said, well, to be honest with you, I'd probably say I'm about an 8. And he said, ooh, oh, I'm sorry, man. I don't know if we'd be able to work together then. I'm like, what? I thought 8 was pretty good. He said, well, if I'm going to come at this relationship at a level 10 commitment to helping you reach your goal, but you're only coming in at an 8, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So what would it take for you to go from a level 8 to a level 10? We've heard this weekend, haven't we? And I said, you know, I don't really know, but I think the reason I'm not a level 10 is because I just don't know what it looks like. I've never done it before, so how could I possibly know what I'm committing to? I got a family, I got other priorities, but this is important to me. I want to get out of debt. And he said, well, why don't we do this? I want you to do 2 things. I want you to take some time to go reflect on your reasons, on your goals, and create a plan that allows you to map out what you're looking to accomplish. And then I want you to look at that and see if you feel you can commit to that number. So here's what I did. I broke down my year by campaign. I said, okay, if I do $100,000 in the summer, that's our biggest portion of the year, and then maybe 75 in the fall and 50 in the spring, that comes out to the right number. And I don't feel too scared by any of those numbers. I broke it down by month, and I said, okay, I think I can do this. And he said, the second assignment is if you do that and you feel you can accomplish that and you're committed at a level 10, then what I want you to do is write a 1-page, single-space typed letter of why this is important to you. And I would encourage every one of you to do that. I don't care who you are, what level you're at. There's always room to grow. There's always room to improve. And figuring this piece out is everything. And so I would encourage you to do that. So I sent him the email, and we set up our first call. So point number 2, like I said, is having the right goals, right? Or having goals, and then having the right plan that you can execute on to make those goals come into reality. What's your system for goal accomplishment? So I'm going to give you a quick couple snaps on, or slides rather, to quickly snap through this. But here's how I define a goal, or how to create a goal, is I ask myself these questions. The first one is, what am I currently at, and what am I looking to achieve by when? So from what to what by when? When you answer that question, the result is your goal. And write it down and look at it and reflect on it. The second definition for you is, what is a plan and how do I create one? Well, I answer this question. This helps me. I hope it helps you. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But here's what I do. I just ask myself the question, what do I need to change about myself and about my business that's going to help me reach my goal? What do I need to change about myself and my business in order to reach my goal? And what answers are produced from that is your plan. The next thing I do is a system of constantly making sure I'm on track. Now, this is diving into some specific weeds here, but this acronym PDCA is an engineering term that stands for plan, do, check, and adjust. On a call with Josh Mueller, we spent some time talking about this, so you can go back and listen to that in a lot more detail, but I just wanted to cover it here and promote that audio. Definitely listen to it. What does this mean? You have a plan, we just discussed that, and then start executing on your plan. But you have to check the results. You have to make sure you know what measurable things you're tracking so that you can make the correct course adjustments. For me, it was figuring out that I let a lot of people go at the booth that I didn't close. I just let them go because I don't want to hurt their feelings and make them feel pressured. And so I didn't want to make them make a decision right now. But that's dumb. They're not going to come back, right? So I knew that was an area of improvement for me. And so I worked with Brandon to focus on that. The next little piece here is attach a reward. And this is such an important one, you guys. There's 3 levels of motivation. I'm just going to leave them on the board. I'm not going to talk too much about them, but I wanted to give you something. Take a photo with your phone or whatever. But there's 3 levels of motivation. And so for me, attaching a reward to achieving my goal is something that really meant a lot to me. And here's what ended up happening. I'll give you a quick backstory here for this year and where the motivation came from. In 2015, my son Giovanni, my oldest, who at the time was 4 years old, had one of his best friends, Tyler,